Hello everyone, welcome back to Build a Profitable Online Business. We are going to continue in this session and we're going to be looking basically at a couple of things which are really important to prepare us for what comes next in the next sessions. So really up until now we've been laying the groundwork, getting a few points of understanding, building the foundation if you like, and then into next week we can really start to get the rubber hitting the road. So a little bit more understanding today, and remember, like we said right back at the beginning, this is all from first principles. So some of you may know what we're going to cover in today's session. If you're already up and running as a business, or you kind of researched it a bit, you're going to know a fair bit of what we're going to go through today. However, there are a few little insights that I'd like to share with you in today's session, which will help you. Maybe you haven't thought about it in quite this way, but again, it's all part of the preparation for really what is to come in this course. So let's switch over to the presentation here and we'll set this thing up. So if you're on live, if you could let me know if you can see the let's have a look. Not that one. How about this one? Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so can you see the slides and the presentation? That would be wonderful to know, please. Yeah, okay, great. Looks good. So we're going to be talking about the 4 essential online business tools. Now, there are well over 30 tools that I use in my online business, and in future sessions we'll certainly cover some of these. But in this session, we'll just look at the 4 essential tools that you need to get up and running in your online business. So this is, like we say, very first principles stuff. Now, there are 2 fundamentals to online business if you really boil it down. It's web pages and email list. There can be a lot of other things as well, but if you really boil it down and distill everything, these are the basic things that you need. Obviously, because it's online, we need to put stuff on web pages. So how do we do that? And then the second thing is, the main asset in your business is your email list. Now, you can have lists elsewhere. So for example, on Facebook, we have a Facebook group for this course. So that's kind of like a list, if you like. But those things, while they're valuable, it's really still about email. That's the most valuable thing that you can have. So think of that as like the major asset in your business. A conventional, traditional business might have assets like machinery or a warehouse or vehicles. But we don't have that because we're virtual, we're online. So instead, those traditional assets are replaced by things like products, web pages, and most of all, the most important is your email list. Okay, so that's the basic way to think about this. So let's break it down in these 2 fundamentals. First of all, let's look at web pages. So what kind of web pages are we talking about? All right, well, we could have email opt-in pages. Now, I'm sure that you've opted in for maybe a free gift or a newsletter. Maybe you've signed up for a webinar or a free training course or something like that. Well, those are all email opt-in pages. Sometimes they're called landing pages, and sometimes they're called squeeze pages. I think the term squeeze page has probably fallen a bit out of favour. That terminology used to be used a lot more, certainly when I first began in sort of 2010, 2011. But they all those terms mean exactly the same thing. So don't ever allow yourself to get confused on that. It just means an email opt-in page. We'll look at some examples later. Sales pages. So these often are the big long ones that seem to go on forever, and you scroll right to the bottom and then you find a buy button, and it's obviously a page designed to sell a product. I'll show you some examples as well. About pages, testimonial pages, contact form pages, and the list goes on. So there are many kinds of web pages there. There are blog posts as well. And really anything that you want to put up online. So there are so many different kinds of pages. These are just a few. But what we want to know is, how do we actually do this? Well, the first thing you need is a domain name. So you've got to have your website address online so people can access that. Now, this could be yourwebsite.com, so it could be your name, literally yourname.com, or it could be your brand name. So for example, for me, I have a brand name called Gain Higher Ground. My main website is gainhigherground.com. All right, so you could do something similar. Now, how do you get a domain name? Well, you need to go to a domain registrar. There are many, many different options here. My preference, which I've always used since I began, is called Namecheap. I don't think there's anything particularly special about it, but it's just what I've always used. It's never caused me any issues or done something I don't like, so caused me to go elsewhere. That's what I use. So if you'd like to use that, that's by all means, that's what I do. If not, there are many, many other examples out there. GoDaddy is probably the famous one, or the most famous. I did have a bad experience with them, with a domain that expired probably 5 or 6 years ago, and that wasn't particularly good, so I've never gone back to them. But I don't know, maybe that was just a one-off. It's probably fine. And there are many others as well. So it really doesn't matter. But that's how you register a domain. It takes probably a minute or 2 minutes of your time. It's a very easy thing to do. Now, the next thing we need is basically a place where you can that you can store all of your web pages. And that means hosting. So you've got to have hosting online. Now, my preference for this, and I'm going to give you all my preferences here for these things, by the way, and I will do that throughout in future sessions as well. But the way I'm going to do this, I'm just saying what I use and what I recommend, but I'm going to tell you about other options as well, and then it's up to you. All right. So I'm not here to say you must do what I do and what I use is the best. Sometimes I have very, very strong recommendations for certain things, which are terrific, because that's just the way it is. But a lot of the time, it's just something that I use, that I like. You might disagree, you might prefer something else. So anything's fine as long as you've got these things in place. So hosting, what I use is SiteGround, all right? And that, in my experience, is terrific. I really like it. The whole interface is very simple and intuitive. I've gone through about probably 4 different hosting companies in over sort of 10 years. Everything from very cheap shared hosting right up to paying several $100s a month for a dedicated server, and some things in between, like what they call a VPS, virtual private server. If you're not familiar with these terms, please don't worry. It doesn't matter at all. You'll pick them up through osmosis going forward. You don't really need to know. But that's what I use for all of my sites. Very, very happy with it. And I have I think it's called Grow Big plan, which is terrific. So again, if you'd like to do what I do, use that. But if not, there are really a myriad of different companies. There are so many, literally hundreds. So there are 3 on the service. I've used HostGator a long time ago when I first began. I've also used Liquid Web for a long time as well. So really, it's up to you. Now, the other thing that you need is a page builder. Okay, so you've got to be able to, obviously, we've got our website with your domain name. We've got hosting, so that's the place to store your web pages. But now we need to build your web pages. And for that, you need a web page builder. Now, again, like with all of these things, there are many, many different options. So I'm going to tell you, again, what I use, my preference. My preference is Thrive Architect. I loosely know the guys who created that, Shane and Paul, and they're very committed. They specialize in what they do, right? They're not a sprawling company that's trying to do everything. And having used this for many years, the updates and the enhancements, all of which are free once you're on board, are terrific. The support's good as well. So that's what I like to use. If you're on a budget or you're budget conscious, then it's an extremely, I think you're hard pressed to find anything that is as good value in terms of budget compared to Thrive Architect as well. That's not particularly my main driving factor. It's just that I really like it, and that's the main thing rather than the budget side. But that is a bonus if you are budget conscious. Having said that though, you might decide to do something else, and that's fine as well. So there are many, many different options. The page builder space has grown and grown and grown and grown. Back in the quite a few years ago, or just after I started, the main one that came on the scene was Optimized Press. And that was quite a revolutionary thing at the time. It really was quite amazing. And then that space, more and more options came on. And this is, of course, on the one hand, it can be an issue because you don't know which one to choose. But overall, it's a very good thing because, of course, it's competition. And to stay in business, all these companies have to constantly improve. So the stuff that you can do with building web pages and how easy it is today is, I'm not exaggerating, I would literally say light years ahead of what I experienced when I first began. It really is just unbelievable. If you're coming into this business, you probably won't see that. You'll just think it's just normal. It's just drag these over and drop them and build up your page. But it really is incredible if you've been in the business for a while or building web pages for a while. So it boggles the mind to think what will be in 5 years or 10 years from now. It's incredible. So there you go. Those are 3 things that we need for web pages. And again, I'll put my links to my preferences, some of which will be affiliate links, but I will mark those clearly. All that means is if you click on those links and you go through, then and you buy something, then I will get a small commission. I'll put that there. But if you prefer not to do that, that's absolutely fine as well. You can go direct or you can choose another option. It's really fine, okay? But these are the basics. So does that make sense so far? Let's just pause for a minute and make sure that everyone who's on live is okay with that. So just let me know any questions, anything. I know this for many of you, like I said, this is going to be totally second nature. But if you don't know stuff, you don't know it. I can still remember registering my first domain name, setting up hosting, and I just didn't know how to do it. I had no clue. So it is stuff that we need to go through, and for people who are just beginning. So let's have a look. Yeah, great. All right, all makes sense. Mike's got a question. If you use Google for the domain name, does that help with rankings? No, it won't. It's just all of these things, Google domain, Reg123, GoDaddy, Namecheap, they're basically just domain marketing businesses. And then when you buy a domain, that goes into this is technical stuff, I don't know, but it goes into a sort of central repository and you just own that domain name. That's it. So it doesn't matter where it's been registered, really. It all goes back to a sort of central hub. But great question. Anything else like that, please do let me know. Right, let's crack on. So what we're going to look at now is break this down into pages, because we saw here, look, we talked about opt-in pages, sales pages, about, contacts, testimonials, blog posts, and it can get quite confusing, right? If you're setting up a business, what do you start with? Like, where do you begin? Well, that's what we're going to get into now. And we're going to split this into 2 buckets, all right? And this is how I think of it. It's so helpful if you remember this. There are branding pages and there are conversion pages. So let me show you some examples and then we can see the difference and what they're for. Now I'm going to show you pages from my business, okay, for the examples. But just imagine, keep in mind, that these are your products or your web pages, all right? And just imagine if you've got an idea maybe about your market, or you already know your market, just kind of let your imagination imagine that these are your pages, okay? So let's go online and we'll take a look at this. So here we go. All right, so the first thing is this, all right? Now, I mentioned this before. This is my main website, gainhighground.com. And this is all about branding. So this is my website here is really just a collection of branding pages, all right? At least when you visit it like this, it is. So the home page that we're looking at is really just about information about what I do, what my values are, what I specialize in, some feedback from customers and clients, and that kind of thing. All right, so we won't spend long on this, but this is a section at the top. This is in the web design. This is called the Guru section, which is probably not a very good name, but there's a picture of me, of course, a sort of tagline, and then we scroll down. There is kind of what I do here, what I specialize in, what I mainly cover and help clients with. There are some testimonials from clients, okay, with a link to go and find some more. And there's an opt-in page or an opt-in form so people can get onto my list, okay, by entering their name and email address. Now, if we go across, we've got an about page, and that really just gives more detail on me, where, you know, my background, experience, what I've done, my story, if you like. All right, so that's all there. Now there's a blog. So a blog really, all this is just a place where you can put articles. That's all. So it's just free content, and I only update my blog probably 2 or 3 times a year. But over the years, I have blogged quite a lot. So there's probably 50 odd blog posts here in the site. If you keep going back to older entries, sometimes I do videos, just the hobby things that I'm doing, some results, all this kind of stuff. So just odd articles that I put out when I feel like it. There is a product section, so a selection of some of the products that I sell. There is testimonials, which we looked at before. This is sort of just more of a kind of a bigger page of selected testimonials that have come in. There are some tools. This free link you might recognize. This is our Build a Profitable Online Business course page. Okay, so we've got all the information there. And there's a contact form as well at the end. All right. So all of what we've just looked at, these are branding pages. So they're just out there. If anyone looks me up, or they stumble across my website, or they see a product of mine and then want to find out a bit more about me, they can find this and they can read about it. You can see, you know, what I've done, what I'm about, what I do, what clients say about it, and so on. That's all it is. All right. It's just branding. So the other type of page are called conversion pages, and these are quite different. All right. So the first type of conversion page are really opt-in pages that we mentioned earlier. So let me show you a couple of those. Again, these are all from my business, but project your own imagination. Imagine these are kind of in your business, all right? Because obviously it's the same template, and you can use this kind of stuff in any market, including yours. So here's an example of one of my opt-in pages. So the purpose of this page, you'll see there's no header, there's no links, there's no testimonials or about or anything like that we saw before. There's no branding really, or much branding other than for this particular offer. And it's a free offer. It doesn't cost any money. People can come to this page and they can enter their name and email address. There's a few bullet points about what it's about, and that's it. That is it. So the only purpose of conversion pages are to get people to take one single action. And the action we want on this page is an email opt-in. That's it. We're not looking for a sale. We don't want them to read a blog post or watch a video or do anything or join a Facebook group or nothing else. It's just to opt in. So that's one of the aspects, one of the attributes of conversion pages, is that they're really almost always, there's always an exception, but almost always we just want one single action the visitor to take. Now, there are other kinds of opt-in pages as well. So here's one for a on-demand webinar. Okay, so this is basically a video, all right, that people can get access to about coaching in this case, all right. So people can come to the page. Again, you'll notice it's quite short. It's not particularly long, all right. And there's no other links to about pages or contact or other than right at the bottom, of course, with the disclaimers. But that's pretty much it. And then they can click that and opt in. So this is just another opt-in page. It might be for a different type of thing rather than, a book. This is for a video or a webinar, but it's still an opt-in page and it's still a conversion page. All we want people to do is opt in. Now, what about other types of conversion pages? Well, the other obvious one, of course, is a sales page. And this is where the action we want people to take is to buy. We want them to spend money. So here's an example, again, from my business. Like I said, these are all from my business, but you can imagine your sales page here in place. This is quite an unusual page because it says, do not read this page. Please click away now. If I scroll down, it says still here, thought so. What you've just experienced is a very simple example of a pattern interrupt. So this is a product of mine that I created all about pattern interrupts, right? Which are quite an obscure sort of copywriting, psychological kind of tactic or strategy that you can use to get more attention in your business. So we won't dwell on all of this because we'll cover a little bit on sales copy and copywriting in a future session. But basically, you've seen this before. You scroll all the way to the bottom and there's the buy button. So when you click, you go through and you can buy this product. This is a budget product. It's only $19.95, but whatever price you're selling it at, this basic process is the same. Sometimes you might have more steps involved. Perhaps we'll cover that in a future session as well. But this is really the simplest setup. Here's another example. Okay, this time, this product of mine is a piece of software. It's actually a browser extension. And it's the same deal. It's this time I've got a little demo video at the top, but you scroll all the way to the bottom. There's just all the sales copy, and then it's the same story. So while these products vary, can you see that the basic core principles of them are the same? The two sales pages, they're basically the same, all right? It's not a different product and so on, but the format's the same. There's a buy button, checkout. For the opt-ins, there's a way of opting in. This time you have to click a link. On this one, you can just enter your details, and that's it. So what we've just covered there are branding pages versus conversion pages. So, and here's the key point. You can see that in my business, I have both types of pages. So they're both useful. Otherwise, why would I bother having them, right? I'm not going to put work into stuff that isn't useful. But does anyone know which are the most valuable type of pages? Is it branding pages or conversion pages? If you're on live, could you type in and let me know which ones you think? What would you start with? If you could only do one, let's say, would it be branding pages or would it be conversion pages? And I'll just have a little sip of water while you're doing that. A little bit of a delay here with the comments. That's a YouTube thing. So I'll just give it a second here. Okay. So there's some different views here. It's really interesting. So some people, I'm not going to call out names, but branding, conversion. Okay, so the majority are saying conversion, and that's absolutely correct. All right. So with the branding pages, so the abouts, the testimonials, that guru section, and all that sort of stuff that I showed you. All right, and you've seen that before on lots of websites, I'm sure, right? That's really useful. It's great. And if you want to create a website like that, by all means, go ahead. It's a great way to learn about building web pages as well, and you learn some copywriting and a bit of design and all of that kind of thing. As well, you can pay anything from, say, maybe a couple of $1,000s up to $20,000 for people to build that whole site out for you yourself. That can be quite inexpensive. It's a good business to be in, probably, to building those kind of websites, branding websites. And most people who go into business, they think, oh, that's what I need. I need a website with the about page and the testimonials and a contact. It looks really good. It feels good when you build it. And it is useful. Okay, it really is useful. But it's nowhere near as useful as the conversion pages. So if you can only do one of these, or what you might be asking, what do you tackle first? It's conversion pages. That's where the money is. 95% of the money I've ever made, which is well into 7 figures online, multiple 7 figures, it all comes from conversion pages. So the branding pages are important as like a backup, as like good branding, right? Everyone wants that. But where the money's made and the email list is built, that's all on the conversion pages. So in this course, in BAPOB, we are not going to be looking at branding pages. They can be useful, but we can do a whole section on that. Okay, we could spend a whole course on branding pages, but really it's the conversion pages that make the difference. So that's where we're going to spend our time, all right? Because otherwise we're just going to be, it's going to go on forever, and we'll get very convoluted, and we'll just be spreading ourselves too thin. Okay, so that's why going forward, in fact, into next week, like I said at the beginning, we're going to be starting to look at conversion pages. How do you put them together? What on earth do you create? How do you offer this stuff? What happens if you don't know anything, or you think you're not an expert and you don't feel you could create anything to give away or sell? All of those things I'm going to show you. And my objective is to get to the point where you think, wow, yeah, of course I can do this. Right, of course I can. I don't know what I was worried about. That's our objective going forward. But it is focused on conversion pages. So, Chris, any advice on if you use Amazon S3 to protect some content? Amazon S3, Chris, you can certainly store things on there, file storage. Do you mean to protect downloads, so only certain people can access that? If you do, then that is usually the way I would do that is in a membership type plugin that has some ability to protect that content. Maybe you want to clarify that if you would like to. I know Michael's got back to you. Maybe Michael's answered your question already. So feel free to come back on that. Even in the Facebook group as well, just post any questions. Has some really good questions in the last few days. And I'll be posting in there more as well. Probably do a little update, mobile phone update video for you tomorrow before the weekend. So check that out in the Facebook group. Now, we also talked, if you remember, about the email list, okay? And what do you need for that? Well, first of all, the email list is there obviously to communicate with your subscribers. You can send free content to engage them. You can promote your products and services. You can promote affiliate offers. And here's what you need to do it. It's an email marketing service. So again, I'll tell you what my preference is, and then about the other options. So what I use is ActiveCampaign. I used to use Aweber for many years, and that's a great system. But I got to the point where I just wanted more flexibility, and ActiveCampaign allows you to do some quite clever stuff, and it makes my life a bit easier. So that's why I went with them. But really, there are so many things on the market. Okay, if you're starting out, I would certainly recommend Aweber. The deliverability, i.e. emails getting through, is the main thing. And then once you're bumping the limits of that and you think, oh, I wish I had some more, my list has grown now and I wish I had some more flexibility, and Aweber's maybe limiting me a bit somehow, then look for something more complicated. All right, I would certainly not, in fact I've put it twice here for some reason, but I certainly wouldn't advise you to jump into something like Infusionsoft. All right, which is, and I don't want to do them down by any means, a great system, but you know, the nickname for that is Confusionsoft, because it can be quite overwhelming when you go in. You just don't need that kind of stuff. You want to keep everything simple, clean, go in simplest as you can with all of these things when you're beginning or trying to get to the next level in your business. And then once you're hitting the hard limits and you think, I really need to do something, but this system doesn't allow me to do it, that's when you put the time into upgrading or changing the system. You're going to change anyway as you evolve, right? You can't foresee what's going to come in a year or 5 years. So just make the decision for what you need right now with just a little bit of foresight. So here's the summary. The 4 essential tools are domain name, hosting, page builder, and email marketing service. Conversion pages are far more important than branding pages, right? I'm not doing, if anyone's on here and you specialize in branding, because branding is a really profitable market and a great market to be in, or building these kind of branded websites, that's terrific. So I'm not doing this down at all, but I'm just saying in order of priority, the conversion pages, that's where the rubber really hits the road in terms of building your list and making you money by selling products. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So I don't want to push anyone away here or saying branding isn't important. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that made sense from looking at the comments here. So here's a little quiz for you. What are the 2 types of conversion pages that you can have in your business? If you're on live, please type this in. What are the 2 types of conversion pages that you can have? Let's see who's first to get this. And while we're waiting for that, I'll just say, which I probably should have said at the top, please do share this with anyone that you think would benefit from it, maybe a family member, friends, and so on. It's great if we can spread the word. There's nothing for sale. This is not running up to a big pitch at the end or anything like that. This is really there during this difficult time with the virus and the situation we're all in, just to do something regular, right, that we can focus on and get away from all the noise. And I really hope it helps you to put some value out there that's going to help your future clients and customers. All right. So please do share it. So let's see who's got it. Oh, everyone's got it. Okay, so I must have explained something correctly there. So I think Trevor's first. So there are opt-in pages and sales pages. That's basically it. All right. And of course, there's many different variations on each of those. But let's not get into the weeds yet. We're going to just keep things very simple. So that's a key insight from today. So top tips for tools: only buy tools when you're ready to use them. So don't be buying your email marketing service thinking, oh, I'm going to be using that in 3 months. A classic thing that I've heard so many people do, people have told me this in the pub, where they, oh yeah, I'm going to start a business, I've just registered a domain name, you know, and that registering a domain name is sort of like an act of future intent. It feels good, it gives you a little endorphin rush, and it's exciting for about 24 hours. But you don't need any of that stuff, all right? Remember, the mindset is the key foundation of all of this, all right? Get the tools on the day that you need to start using them, or the day before, or something like that, not 3 months in advance. Don't succumb to death by research. I've done this myself in my early days. I often tell a story about, I flew to, obviously I live here in the UK, but I flew to America and to Connecticut, went to a conference so I could, because I knew that two people from two membership site owners were going to be there, and I wanted to talk to them personally about which system was best. All right, you don't need to do any of that, so don't research everything to death. You'll never decide anyway, because the market's so broad. It's only by using it. So make your best decision. If you're not sure, then remember, it probably doesn't matter. Make a decision. You can always change later. And also, finally, this is quite rare, but I do get people saying, oh, you said Aweber's quite good. Well, I noticed that's sort of $20 a month or something, and I think it's probably still $20 a month. But is there anything like cheaper, or is there something for free? So people are almost trying to like get their budget, their business budget, to zero. But yet they'll still go out and they'll buy a coffee from Starbucks, which over the month adds up to way more than an autoresponder would, your email service. So there's this mindset when it comes to business, just this scarcity mindset. I don't want to let any money go at all. I want it to be absolutely zero. Remember, any business requires investment of your time and money. And if you're not prepared to put that in, you're not going anywhere. So remember, only buy them when you need them, but when you need them, you need them. So that's the best thing I can say. And remember, this business, it's not like a conventional, traditional business opening a shop where before you can even open the doors, you've got to invest tens of thousands in stock, a 2-year lease on the premises, hire an employee, fit out the shop, before you can even sell anything. That's so much money, tens of thousands before you can even open the door. Here we're just talking about a few dollars, all right? And that's just part of this business mindset you've got to get in if you're going to be successful. Doesn't apply to many people. Most people are fine with it, but have over time just had occasionally emails about that. People ask me. So that's my advice there. So with that said, Roy's got a great quote from Jim Rohn, who I think was he Anthony Robbins' mentor, I think. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Very good. Thank you, Roy. Finally, to finish on, we're going to look at the foundation, which is part of, well, it is the mindset really that's so important, as well as all these strategies. There's something called the marshmallow experiment. And here's the story behind it. In 1972, a psychologist called Walter Mischel conducted an experiment with a small group of children. Each child was offered 1 marshmallow now or 2 marshmallows in 15 minutes' time. Mischel then kept in touch with the children as they grew and eventually entered adulthood. The ones that chose to wait for 2 marshmallows ended up with better life outcomes in terms of body mass index, education, SAT scores, and even stability in personal relationships. Now, other studies have shown that self-control, also known as willpower, is a skill that can be actively acquired by adults, and it leads to more success and happiness. Now, a simple way to do this is by regularly practicing acts of micro self-denial or delayed gratification. So I'll give you some examples of what we mean by delayed gratification and micro self-denial. And they might seem trivial at first, but they're really important. So just have 1 biscuit or cookie when you really want to. Go to bed 15 minutes earlier, despite the pull of Netflix. Have an apple instead of a bar of chocolate. These are all micro acts of self-denial. All right, you're practicing taking decisions which will pay off in the future and not now. This is really important because this business is not like a job. All right. In a job, you have got basically most of the time anyway, it might be different at the moment, but most of the time, you know what you're going to get paid at the end of the month. There's a certainty. And if you've been in employment like I have up until sort of 2010, for years, I'd done all sorts of jobs, and that was my life. You do the work, and it doesn't matter if you have a bad week or a bad month or you don't like your job or you had a bad year, you're still going to be paid. There's that certainty. In business, you don't have that. What's required of you is to put in work up front, and you don't know, right, if you're going to get paid, and you don't know when the timing of that is. Now, if you follow all the strategies and you take the time to learn and invest your time in work and learning and action, then there's a very good chance, particularly in this business, that you're going to hit the target. All right. And you might not be in the bullseye, but you're going to be around there and you're going to get some real results. All right. It's surprisingly how high the success rate is if you just look at people who've actually really leaned into it and taken action. But it's still that mindset of doing work now for an uncertain payoff in the future. That's very different from the world of work. So the way we're conditioned in school and through employment gets you in a certain subconscious mindset. All right. So this idea of practicing micro self-denial or delayed gratification is a great habit to get into. Now, obviously, having one cookie instead of two or going to bed 15 minutes beforehand, that's not going to make any direct difference to your business. But it is going to change your mindset and get you into developing new habits, which then will spread into all aspects of your life, including your business. So that is your takeaway mindset wise for this session, the marshmallow experiment. Now, with that said, it's quite a long session today. I was really trying to keep them to 30 minutes, but sometimes, of course, we're not going to rush them. Sometimes they go over. Thank you very much for attending live if you have. I hope you've enjoyed it if you're watching the recording or you're recapping. I'm really looking forward to next week. We're going to really start getting into some product creation, all right, type stuff next week. We're going to be going step by step, little bits at a time. We're not going to rush it or do very long sessions at all, but that's all to look forward to. So until next week, have a great one. I hope you have a good weekend, whatever you're doing. Do check the Facebook group out for any updates in the meantime before we come back for our next live session. If you haven't joined yet, please do. And like I said before, if you can like this video on YouTube, that would really help spread the message. It just gives it a little bump. Maybe it pops into someone's feed who hasn't seen it, might really help them. So if you can like the video and also share it, that would be really appreciated. So I'll see you in the Facebook group, and have a good weekend, and we'll see you next Tuesday when we'll be back for more. All right. So take care for now, and talk soon. All right. Bye.